It is the year 2035 and 5 billion people are dead from a deadly virus that struck in 1997. Only 1% of the human population remain, and they've gone underground to survive, leaving only the animals on the surface. Somehow the animals survived the plague. This underground society is ruled by scientists who would stop at nothing to reclaim the surface world. It has been decades since the outbreak, but a solution has not yet been found. Prison inmates are sent topside to gather specimens from the surface world to analyze, in hopes of finding a cure for the virus. One of these prison inmates is James Cole, a prisoner disturbed by recurring dreams and one of the scientist's best observers. He has conspiracy theories with his fellow inmate Jose about experiments he assumes are being done on others just like him. Cole is an excellent surface observer, always accomplishing what is demanded of him. He has a reliable work ethic and gets his missions done. Now he's being recruited for a mission that can earn him a pardon from his sentence. He needs to travel back in time to 1996 and get information about the original virus before it mutates in 1997. This is the only way a cure can be produced. Cole has to investigate because little is known except that a group called the Army of the 12 Monkeys was involved. Cole agrees due to the promise of freedom. He is sent back in time but mistakenly ends up in Baltimore in 1990 instead of 1996. He shows up suspiciously in the neighborhood and is arrested, jailed, and assigned a psychiatrist named Dr. Catherine Rayleigh. Inside the jail cell, Cole tells Rayleigh that he's from the future but that he has been sent back to the wrong year. Cole says they have to let him go so he can call and tell the scientists about the error. In response, Rayleigh gets him out of jail and sends him to a mental institution for further diagnosis and treatment. There, Cole is cleaned up and introduced to the other patients, one of whom is Jeffrey Goins. Goins has animal rights, environmentalist, anti corporate leanings, and conspiracy theories about everything. Cole tells doctors he's from the future to investigate a coming virus outbreak in 1997, but he's been sent to the wrong year and he needs to call and leave voicemail on a number being monitored by the scientists in the future. Rayleigh allows the call, but it's unsuccessful because it was still 1990 and the phone number won't be activated until 1996. After this attempt, Cole is returned to the psych ward for further evaluation. Goins, however, had other ideas. He creates a distraction inside the psych ward, allowing Cole to escape using a key he drops near him. Rayleigh orders a search, and upon finding Cole, a struggle ensues. Cole is strong, but is eventually subdued, sedated, and restrained on a bed inside a holding cell. The psychiatrists were still in discussion when a medic reports that Cole had strangely disappeared without a trace, that only his belt straps remain. Cole is transported back to 2035, and as he wakes up, the scientists subject him to an interrogation. They play a distorted voicemail from 1996 giving information on the headquarters of the Army of the 12 Monkeys. The scientists ask Cole if it came from him, and he says it wasn't because he was sent to the wrong year and couldn't make a call. He says he was arrested, sent to an asylum, and put on drugs most of the time. To jar his memory, the scientists flash photos of people and locations possibly involved in releasing the virus, asking if Cole recognizes any of them. He marks Jeffrey Goins, whom he met at the institution. The scientists offer Cole another chance to return to 1996, and he agrees. Cole is again sent through the imperfect time machine and appears on a battlefield in the 1920s, naked amid World War I French troops who hold him at gunpoint. Cole is confused by the war when he suddenly sees Jose on a stretcher, and as he runs to follow him, he is shot in the leg. Just then, the right time coordinates kick in, and Cole ends up where he's supposed to be. It is November 1996 in Baltimore, and Dr. Rayleigh is launching her book to a group of scientists and followers. In her book lecture, she cites images of apocalyptic occurrences throughout history. One of the attendees is Dr. Peters, an environmentalist who approaches Rayleigh during book signing and tells her the real danger comes from man inflicting destruction on the environment. After the event, while opening her car, Rayleigh is attacked and forced inside her vehicle by someone who tells her to drive to Philadelphia. Rayleigh reluctantly follows and drives, fearful of the attacker. She soon recognizes her carjacker is James Cole, her patient of 6 years ago, who mysteriously vanished without a trace. Cole tells her to continue driving, and they drive all night until they had to stop at a hotel to sleep. The following morning, Dr. Riley's assistant reports her disappearance to the police, and this becomes news on TV. That morning, Cole is having his recurring dream again. This time, he sees a woman running who resembles Riley except for the hair color. Riley is tied up on the other bed, and as soon as they could, they start driving again. On the radio, they hear news about rescue efforts to save a young boy who supposedly fell into a well. Cole tells Riley he remembers this as nothing but a prank, that the kid was hiding inside a barn somewhere. Skeptical, Riley isn't sure what to make of what Cole said. Now in Philadelphia, Cole narrates how 5 billion people are going to die due to the virus outbreak, but Rayleigh remains skeptical. Suddenly, Cole jumps out of the vehicle after seeing a symbol of the army of the 12 monkeys on one of the walls. This is Rayleigh's chance to escape, but she stays because she wants to cure Cole of his delusions. They come into contact with a homeless man who says he's a time traveler just like Cole. He says he's now free of the scientist because he had removed his teeth because the trackers were inside them. Cole and Rayleigh's search leads them to a pighead bus that marks the Freedom for Animals Association or FAA, the alleged headquarters of the 12 monkeys. Cole hostages three employees of the FAA who confess that Jeffrey Goins is the founder of the Army of the 12 Monkeys. He's been released from the asylum and now works for his father, renowned virologist Dr. Leland Goins. Cole is convinced Goins intends to release a virus that his father is working on in their laboratories. Cole finds Goins' address from a Rolodex and they use the FAA employee's car and head towards the Goins residence. Along the way, Rayleigh tries to convince Cole that what he's experiencing is a delusion he must let go of. But then she notices Cole has a gunshot wound on his leg and convinces him to let her remove the bullet. They park near the Goins residence and she extracts the bullet and keeps it. But then Cole grabs her, places her inside the car trunk, and sets off on foot to confront the Goins. Inside his residence, Dr. Leland Goins is making a speech and Cole gets in by telling security that Jeffrey is expecting him. Initially, Jeffrey denies that he knows Cole, but is forced to recognize him when he mentions the 12 monkeys. Jeffrey walks with Cole, but when he confronts him, Goins denies involvement with any deadly virus or the 12 monkeys and suggests that wiping out humanity was Cole's idea back at the asylum. Cole gets confused and escapes, evading the security man chasing him. He runs back to the car, opens the trunk, and is kicked and beaten up by an upset Rayleigh on the ground near a pool of water. Searchlights then appear in the woods and approach them. Cole starts singing and splashing in the shallow pool of water, hoping he's really delusional because that would mean the virus outbreak won't happen. As the searchers approach, Cole mysteriously disappears again, leaving Rayleigh dumbfounded on how such a thing could happen a second time. After being rescued, guards and cop cars are deployed to protect Rayleigh in case Cole shows up, who is now wanted for several crimes. However, on TV, Rayleigh sees the kid who supposedly fell into a well was hiding inside the barn, and the whole thing was a prank, just like Cole said. She consults her senior psychiatrist about doubts on whether Cole was delusional or telling the truth. Cole, on the other hand, wakes up in 2035 again. The scientists are pleased that he connected the army of the 12 monkeys, Jeffrey Goins, and his virologist father as the source of the virus. Now they have more information to finish the job, and soon he is about to get his pardon. However, Cole becomes unstable and becomes convinced that the scientists, the decimated world, and time traveling are the actual delusions. The scientists grow silent and decide to let Scientist Jones sedate him so he can calm down and come to his senses. As Cole falls asleep, the scientists wonder if they've lost their biggest asset in finding a cure for the virus. Back in 1996, Rayleigh wakes up to more evidence that Cole was telling the truth about being a time traveler. A ballistics report from the police indicate that the bullet she pulled out from Cole's leg was an antique and was fired before 1920. Confused, she goes through the research clippings for her book and gasps as she sees Cole in a vintage photograph from World War I. Upon waking up, Cole longs to return to the real world where Rayleigh is and is determined to make the scientists send him back through time again. The scientists evaluate Cole to see if he's still reliable. The only way he can see Rayleigh again is by going back to 1996, so Cole passes the test and reaffirms his commitment to completing the mission. The scientists are persuaded to send him back again to the past and gives him a happy send-off one more time using the time machine. Rayleigh calls Dr. Leland Goins and warns that his son Jeffrey may release a virus from his lab to the outside world. He dismisses Rayleigh but instructs his assistant, Dr. Peters, to add security safeguards to the dangerous viruses they're working on just in case. After Dr. Goins dismisses her call, Rayleigh gets frustrated and proceeds to the FAA headquarters, knocking furiously and spray painting its facade for them to come out. Jeffrey is inside finalizing his plans, then he proceeds to leave via the back door without Rayleigh seeing him. By now, Rayleigh's spray paint message is complete. Cole reappears and finds Rayleigh, and Rayleigh pulls him aside to evade the police because they're after him. As they cross the street, Cole turns around and sees the message Rayleigh made and remembers he had seen it in a photo before. A police detective sees them but is cut off by other cars, and Cole and Rayleigh are able to run and hide by checking into a cheap hookup motel. Inside their room, Rayleigh tells Cole she doesn't know what's going on but that she believes he's telling the truth. She shows him his photo of World War One that shows he has traveled in time, and Cole says all he wants is to stay where he is right now with her. Rayleigh is touched and they experience a tender moment between them. Rayleigh suggests they call and leave a voicemail in the phone number that Cole memorized. It may not have been active in 1990, but it should be active now that it's 1996. Before they're able to make a call, however, a pimp kicks open the door and attacks Rayleigh, thinking she's a new hooker infringing on his turf. The receptionist was a snitch who called the pimp. Cole beats him up with the phone and drags him inside the bathroom. He recalled what the homeless man said and pulls out his teeth with the pimp's knife to prevent the scientists from tracing his whereabouts. Cole and Rayleigh leave the motel before the police arrive and barge in. They alight from a bus and Rayleigh looks for a phone. She plans to find out whether the scientists and the impending virus outbreak are real by seeing who was going to answer on the number Cole provided. Cole, in the meantime, is disoriented by the buildings as he sees flashes of animals he encountered in the future. Rayleigh comes running, saying the phone number was for a carpet cleaning company and no scientist answered her call. She left a funny voicemail, but Cole recites her phone message even before she finishes telling him about it. Rayleigh's call creates the message the scientist played back to Cole before sending him a second time to 1996. Cole tells her the carpet cleaning service is a cover set up by the scientist to reconstruct any calls he would make to provide them information. They finally accept that the coming plague is real and inevitable, but they're still wanted by the police, so they buy items to disguise themselves and keep a low profile inside the theater. They touch up their disguises, and Rayleigh says now that the end is near, she will book a flight to the Florida Keys and show Cole the ocean. He falls asleep and has his recurring dream once more. Cole wakes up without Rayleigh beside him and rushes to the lobby looking for her, only to see that she has dyed her hair and he realizes it has always been her in his dreams. They show their feelings for each other and kiss. Jeffrey's army of 12 monkeys finally strikes. He kidnaps his father, Dr. Leland Goins, places him in a body bag, then drives to the zoo where he proceeds to put him in a cage. That was the first stage of their protest action, and the second stage was to go into the zoo and release as many animals as they can from captivity. They liberate monkeys, bears, tigers, elephants, giraffes, and birds into the city, causing major disruptions and traffic jams. Now on their way to the airport, Cole and Rayleigh realize the Army of the 12 Monkeys is a harmless movement. Goins and his army were nothing more than a bunch of kids with a demented leader playing revolution. They had nothing to do with releasing the deadly virus. As Cole and Rayleigh arrive at the airport, police are on the lookout for them. As they enter, Cole says he has been in that airport before and that was his dream. True enough, his younger self in 1996 was also entering the terminal with his parents. Rayleigh tells Cole she needs to get their tickets as he makes a call to the number the scientists are monitoring in the future, telling them the Army of the 12 Monkeys is a false trail and not responsible for releasing the virus. He also says he does not intend to return to 2035. Rayleigh gets their tickets, and behind her, the culprit with the viruses collects tickets for a tour of international cities where he plans to release the plague. After Cole retouches his disguise, he is confronted by Jose, his fellow inmate from the future, who tells him they found him through the phone call he made. Jose hands Cole a handgun, which he refuses to accept. Jose tells him to follow orders or Rayleigh will be shot or someone will be sent to shoot her. Cole accepts the gun from Jose reluctantly. While waiting for Cole, Rayleigh bumps into Dr. Peters and recognizes him from her book signing event. As she glances at the newspaper, she sees Peters is Dr. Leland Goyle's assistant and realizes he's the one who will release the virus. All while this was happening, young James Cole was happily enjoying his time at the airport. Rayleigh rushes to tell Cole about Peters, and they rush to where Peters is boarding for San Francisco. Peters was about to exit the inspection area when Cole and Rayleigh arrive and force their way through a security checkpoint. Just then, Rayleigh sees Peters and shouts that he must be stopped as the police approach to check on the commotion. Cole jumps the metal detector and draws his gun as Peters runs. Young Cole turns and sees people running. Cole aims his gun at Peters while the police arm their guns at him. Peter runs past young James Cole, and as Rayleigh shouts and runs towards Cole, the cops fire and fatally wound him. Young James Cole sees Rayleigh shout as Cole falls, and she gets to him. The police approach them with guns still drawn. Peters, meanwhile, makes a clean break for his plane. As Cole dies in her arms, Rayleigh raises her head and makes eye contact with the young James Cole. She recognizes him and smiles, hopeful what has happened there will change the future for him. The young James Cole isn't aware he's witnessing his own future death, seeing the events he will relive in his dreams over and over for years to come. Peters, aboard the plane with the viruses in his hand-carried luggage, finds his seat. He sits down next to Jones, unaware she is one of the lead scientists in the future. She shakes his hand when she introduces herself and says she is in insurance.